got? What do you got from last
if you remember
night?
DNC, we had a few key words, right? Trust, science, all those words.
Science.
By the way, it was very interesting listening to Michael give his perspective on Trump. As a small business owner, his life and the people around his life got better because of President Trump. So that's an interesting take. But here's the key words. Here's the key words that I wrote down on the differences between the two. One was Democrats blame America for everything, okay? DNC talked about how much they despise America. This was about dreams, okay? This was about dreams. DNC was about nightmare. This is all about dreams. Everything was dreams, 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 dreams. And it was different on the other side. I'll go down the aisle with every one of them. I have 16, 17 speakers here. I'll just give you the main highlights. Jim Jordan talked about the Democrats want to defund police, defund border patrol, defund the military. We won't let you go to church, but we'll let you protest. We won't let you go to work, but we'll let you riot. It's kind of interesting. Then he told a story about his nephew, Eli, who died a few years, last year, I believe. And the father's name of Eli is Todd. And Trump calls Jim Jordan and say, how you doing? He says, how's the family doing? So, well, we're not doing too well. Then Jim Jordan asked, would you be willing to talk to the father for a few minutes? Trump got on the phone and talked to Todd for 5 minutes, and the family was sitting there just to mourn together the loss of a child. You know, this kid was a prodigy coming up with a wrestler. So Jim talked about the connection side of what he did on the family side. I thought it was a powerful message that he gave. The couple who pointed guns at the BLM protesters in St. Louis, they spoke. And I don't know if you saw that talk or not. They just got up and they said, look, you know, none of us are looting outside the house. We're charged. He says, none of the looters were charged with a crime, but we were. So let me get this straight. People are coming to my house, my private property, and I'm the one that's charged with a crime and they're not? How does that make any sense? So they're protecting the looters, but they're not protecting the citizens. They talk about pro-Second Amendment. We're not the kind of people that back down. Neither is Donald Trump. Donald Trump brought us the best economy ever, but the Democrats have brought us nothing but distraction. So that was them. Good talk, safe, good talk that they gave. Vernon Jones, I thought, crushed it. He's the guy you were talking about, the Georgia Democrat state representative. He said black people are free with free minds. So he didn't like the fact that Democrats said, I cannot believe you're going to speak at the RNC. And, you know, he says, I got letters, I got threats. They told me to resign, all this. He says, that's the thing with the black mob. They do this just because I am supporting a president that's doing good for them. He says, here's Joe Biden who talks about he's going to make change. He says, you've been in office for 47 years. Trump's been in office for 3 years. You've been in office for 47 years. You had a chance to make results. You have no results. It's all talk, no action. Great point, 47 years. That was interesting. He says, if I work hard, he says, my dad told me, hey, son, if you work hard, treat people fairly, there's nothing you couldn't accomplish in your life. Again, dreams. That's the messaging, right? He says Trump did a historical criminal justice reform, what he did. He spoke about police officers, and he says, that's Vernon Jones. I thought it was a good talk. Nikki Haley, she came out and she told a story about Ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick, that in 1984 he gave this talk, this ambassador, because she was also an ambassador, Nikki Haley.
The UN, right?
She said that this ambassador during Reagan in 1984 says Democrats always blame America first. Democrats always blame America first. That's her point in the first 30 seconds, by the way, when she came out. There was a couple guys that made points like that. Her and Matt Gaetz was right off the bat. So she made that point. Then she said Joe has a record of weakness and failure. Joe Biden is good for Iran and ISIS, great for communist China, and godsend for anyone who wants America to apologize, abstain, abandon our values. Let me say this one more time, what she said. It's a powerful line. Joe Biden has a record of weakness and failure. He's good for Iran and ISIS, great for communist China, and God sent for anyone who wants America to apologize, abstain, and abandon our values. Okay, that's a very strong statement. She talked about cutting taxes. We cut taxes. They raised them in her state. When we brought good jobs to South Carolina, Obama and Biden sued her state. They want to tell Americans how to think. Americans know how to think. Democrats love telling everyone that America's a racist nation. America's not a racist nation. Then she talked about cops. Cops matter. Black cops matter. Black cops' lives matter. Black small business owners' lives matter. And then she went on this part with progress, which I thought, again, she crushed it. She gave a very good message. It's a kind of a message that maybe 8 years from now, people are going to look at it and say, what's the bench look like? You know, when Obama gave that talk in 2004, they're like, listen, that's a good bench. We have a guy that we can do something around in 2008. She's kind of getting into that league. She's both not liked by some Republicans and not liked by some Democrats, which could be a good thing when she runs, because that's kind of like what Trump had going on. She's got a similar Trump card in a different way that could work for Matt Gaetz. Came out the gates firing. He said, first sentence, I'm speaking to you in an auditorium emptier than Joe Biden's schedule. It's his opening line. I'm speaking to you in an auditorium emptier than Joe Biden's schedule. Pretty strong opening line when you say that, by the way. Settle for Biden is a hashtag promoted by AOC and Socialist. Let me say this one more time. AOC and the Socialists have a hashtag that's being used on Twitter. I don't even know if you know about it. It's called Settle for Biden. Settle for Biden. Meaning, let's just settle for Biden. Forget about Trump. Let's get this guy out. But don't get it twisted. AOC and the Socialists do not want Biden. I mean, you saw who she endorsed. The left wing wants to make America weaker to move their agenda forward, so that was his message. Andrew Pollack, school safety activist, gunman shot his daughter 5 times, and she died on February 14, 2018. This is a guy with a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence, and heartfelt. You feel this guy. And after his daughter's murder, I noticed the media wasn't interested in the facts. So they didn't tell her story, but they told other stories. His daughter, innocent daughter in school, gets shot. Can you imagine your kid dies, gets shot 5 times just because? What does she do? She did nothing. So he told that story. Very powerful. Far-left Democrats made the shooting in the school possible. That's Andrew Pollack. Donald Trump Jr., I mean, he was interesting to me. The one thing that he did say that was powerful, he said the Chinese Communist Party prefers Biden, okay, which he's right. He sold a dream. It was a constant dream. America's about dream. Imagine. He used the word imagine, I think, 10 times. Imagine a world where you can live your dreams. You can have that. You can have, he kept saying this, you can have that. I thought he did a good job. Kimberly was a little bit uncomfortable watching her, especially if you watch her on 2.0 speed on YouTube. It was very difficult watching her. It almost seemed like there's a video of them, of Donald Trump Jr. drinking 2 Red Bulls before the talk. Okay, on Instagram, he posted and his dad shared it. It looked like she had one too many Red Bulls when she gave the talk. She talked about human sex trafficking and, in President Trump's America, we like things up, is what she said. In President Trump's America, we like things up. The market, you have to watch it.
Okay.
The church, market, all this other stuff, could be taken out of context. Herschel Walker said what he said. Ronna McDaniel, RNC chair. She said, I'm the second woman in 164 years to run the RNC. And he didn't choose me because I'm a woman. He chose me because I'm qualified to do this job. Second woman, which is pretty interesting that everybody says Trump doesn't support women, yet the RNC chair is a woman. It's kind of, and by the way, somebody called out Trump the other day and says, yes, the RNC chairman is a woman. And they were shocked. Most people didn't even know this, that is the case.
Does Trump choose the head of the RNC?
Yes.
The president chooses the head of the RNC?
So the support has to come from there. Kim Klacik, Baltimore, this girl's fireball, young candidate of Baltimore whose video went viral. She crushed it again. Democrats assume that
black girl.
Black people will constantly vote for them blindly.
She seems legit.
She says, we want safety in our neighborhood, lower taxes, better education, better jobs, and I think she's got a good career ahead of her. Maximo Alvarez did a great job when, he escaped Fidel Castro and communist regime to come over here. I thought he did a fantastic job. Tim Scott talked about education, 7 million jobs pre-COVID. 2/3 of the jobs that Trump created out of the 7 million went to women, Latinos, and African-American. That's just record-breaking on what he did. Charlie Kirk gave a good job. Trump got up there and he talked about the 80 million ballots right off the bat. In the first 30 seconds, what he talked about is the ballots, his post office. First thing he talked about was that. It wasn't like he took 20 minutes. You have to know that when you're giving a speech, you got to know your first minute's going to be remembered. Whatever you say in the minute, that's what everyone's going to watch. Not on minute 51, not minute 48. Minute 1, he talked about 80 million ballots, and they're working. Post office scandal. He says, I'm preparing all of you. They're already talking about it. Because they're talking about it, it's their strategy. It is a scandal. He called it the most important election in the history of our country. He said, success brings people together. He says, pre-COVID, while everybody was making money, 401ks was good, Democrats were very happy with me. Because success brings people together. Now, because of COVID, things have divided. So look at your 401k. You should look at your 401k because it's doing good, because the market's back up. NASDAQ has broken the record 16 times now. Farmers, he got them $28 billion from China. November 4th, everything's going back to normal. Biden's comment, I'd shut down the economy if, kind of took a shot there. And then he talked about vaccine stage 3 trials. It's, most people wouldn't predict it go this far. Till a few minutes ago, nobody knew I was coming. Last minute, he decided to come and talk because of what that state did. He campaigned there before. He called MSNBC the usual MSDNC. DNC took Under God out of the national anthem on 2 of their meetings that they had when they did not the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance. They took Under God out. It was during 2 meetings. It was the LGBTQ caucus meeting and the Muslim Delegates Assembly. They didn't say Under God. And then they're trying to steal the election, rig the election. Bernie Sanders is the greatest loser I've ever met. This guy's so happy. You just lost. What are you happy about? He called Bernie Sanders the greatest loser ever. He says, you lost your chance to be a president. Why are you smiling? China had its worst year in 67 years, which is what's happened to their economy. We now have it that the signature doesn't have to be verified. Signature doesn't have to be verified to vote. It's kind of weird. We build their wall. It'll be done shortly. And he talked about some of his accomplishments, how many judges they chose. Cut drug prices first time in 51 years. Can you imagine? 51 years, first time they cut drug prices. Anyways, so that's the message he gave, okay, with the speakers that spoke there. It was, the first night to me was watching it, you were kind of like, here's the best example I'll give you. I didn't like to go to church. Here's why I didn't like to go to church. You'd go to church, and there was pastors who would get up to collect money. And this happens sometimes in the Army. There's a big Armenian church that had a big falling out, and a lot of people that had money left this church. And a lot of them, quite frankly, stepped away from the religion of Christianity because of the way that church handled things. My friend was a hardcore Christian. He converted me, and he stepped away, okay? And you know what it had to do with? Money. But here's one of the things on how church uses the Bible. There's 2 ways they convert people. One of them, they get up, and the pastor says what? The pastor says, if you don't give your life to Christ, you're going to hell. Here's what hell looks like. You ever seen these advertisements? They paint what hell looks like with volcanoes and fire, and you're going to be burning up in hell.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the other pastor that gets up and says, listen, man, you can go to heaven. Let me tell you what heaven looks like. You're going to see your family. Maybe you've been away from your grandma or your mom or your husband. You're going to see them again. This is heaven. So they're both trying to get people to convert, to go to heaven. One is selling hell. The other one is selling heaven. DNC was selling hell. RNC was selling heaven. Very big difference in perspective. And the biggest churches in the world, they tend to sell heaven.